Happening now, a jury in Georgia is setting a new legal precedent, convicting the father of an accused school shooter on murder charges. Plus,
well, I think it's very important for us to let the voters be able to have their opportunity to vote just as soon as possible.
State Democrats get a controversial transportation package on the May ballot, while Republicans are threatening legal action to keep it in November. And as war surges in the Middle East, so do gas prices. The shocking jump we haven't seen since Hurricane Katrina.
You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to
This was what I spent my time doing.
Fiery testimony from the Clintons over the Jeffrey Epstein files. New video released by the House Oversight Committee. An attack on the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia is raising concerns over the threat to U.S. citizens in the Middle East. The Saudi Defense Ministry confirmed the attack was by suspected Iranian drones. The embassy suffered only minor damage and no injuries have been reported. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Stephanie Domarat. Now, in response to the attack, U.S. citizens in more than a dozen countries across the Middle East are being urged to leave immediately. Trump officials are set to brief Congress today after the president says it could take longer than a month to end Operation Epic Fury. Some leading Democrats who got earlier briefings argue Iran did not pose an imminent threat to the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying the administration knew Israel was preparing to strike Iran and the U.S. acted first.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
However, the death toll of American service members is growing. 6 are confirmed dead, with 20 more seriously injured. In response, Trump says he vows to destroy Iran's Navy and missile capabilities. Iran has also threatened to attack any ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important shipping lanes, particularly for oil and gas. Iran has also launched strikes on major Middle Eastern oil and natural gas facilities. Amid this ongoing conflict, drivers are now seeing the biggest one-day jump in gas prices since Hurricane Katrina. According to AAA, the national average was 11 cents higher on Tuesday, sitting at $3.11 per gallon. Meantime, Oregon is sitting much higher at $3.95 a gallon. Washington is currently paying $4.38 at the pump, among the highest price in the nation. And speaking of gas prices, let's take a live look this afternoon at the state capitol in Salem, where lawmakers approved a controversial plan to hold a vote on a transportation package in May. Now, that idea is sparking legal threats this afternoon. Republicans want the vote to happen in November, when voter turnout is higher. KGW's Thomas Schultz has the details on the plan.
Lawmakers passed Senate Bill 1599 on Monday, which sets a timeline for when Oregonians will vote on higher taxes that would all fund the state's Department of Transportation. The bill includes a 6-cent gas tax hike along with other fees, meant to fill ODOT's more than $200 million shortfall and avoid hundreds of layoffs. It's expected to generate around $4.3 billion over a decade. The Republicans want voters to have a say on the new tax. Last year, they gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures to put an anti-tax referendum on the November ballot. Though Democrats want that vote to happen instead in May. They say that would give voters an earlier chance to give their opinion.
The sooner that we have clarity from voters, if they approve of the transportation package, the sooner we can get people to work fixing our roads and bridges and potholes. And if they don't approve, the sooner we get to work figuring out a budget that will actually work for everybody.
They don't believe that. None of them believe that that's the reason. They know this is a loser for them. The only reason they're moving this is because they don't want it on the ballot in November.
Governor Tina Kotek signed the bill yesterday, but this fight appears to be far from over. Republicans plan to challenge this in court in a final attempt to move the vote to November. And if this vote does end up happening in May, it'll be a scramble for election officials to make sure all the voters have pamphlets with information detailing this vote. Still, Secretary of State Tobias Reed says his workers will ensure all Oregonians have all the information necessary. In Portland, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
And here is a look at some of the important dates to know ahead of the May primary. The deadline to register to vote is April 28th. Ballots will be mailed to voters on April 29th. May 19th is primary election day, and the final results will be certified on June 15th. All right, switching gears to your weather this afternoon, let's check in with Chris McGinnis with a look at what's ahead. Hi.
After that glorious day yesterday, and it was glorious, we are now going to dial it back.
A little bit different.
A little bit different, and it will be a lot different by later on this evening with rain back in the forecast. For right now, the live look from the Springs at the waterfront in Vancouver certainly shows that broken cloud deck that is over the Portland-Vancouver metro area. 56 last check at Pearson Airfield. We'll go down to our state capital. You can see it's pretty cloudy right now in Salem at 55 and a light south breeze. And our Rose City sky camera, again, shows a pretty solid cloud cover now across the region. All right, it is raining lightly along the South Washington and North Oregon coast. Radar showing some light returns showing up around the Long Beach Peninsula and down through Clatsop County, Astoria, Seaside, Cannon Beach. It's very, very light. And over the last 3 hours, you can see it's not making a lot of eastward progress, but it is making eastward progress. And eventually, we will get a little bit wet, but probably not until after sunset. So the forecast for the rest of today, I've got temperatures holding steady in the mid-50s. We probably top out at about 56, maybe 57. Clouds thicken later this afternoon. We've got our first 6 o'clock sunset, by the way, of 2026. Now we'll celebrate with some rain moving in shortly thereafter, and it'll be a pretty wet night ahead and a wet Wednesday morning. We'll walk you through that with Futurecast in just a few minutes.
Okay, we'll see you then, Chris. Thank you. And new here at noon today, a Georgia jury has convicted the father of accused school shooter Colt Gray on murder charges. It's a landmark case that sets a tone for who can be held accountable for mass shootings. Prosecutors say Colin Gray bought his 14-year-old son an AR-15 style rifle and allowed Colt access to the weapon despite receiving warnings he was a danger to others. 2 teachers and 2 students died in that shooting in Appalachia High School in 2024. Happening now, it is day 2 of a high-stakes legal fight over the federal government's use of tear gas at the ICE building. The question is whether a judge's order limiting officers from using chemical munitions should stay in place. After months of tear gas, pepper balls, and flashbang grenades, protesters took their case to court, arguing federal officers violated their constitutional rights to free speech. The protesters' lawyers argue federal officers have used excessive force. They provided video evidence, including clips showing tear gas used on peaceful protesters, agents shooting pepper spray into the faces of people who are not threatening or violent. The Department of Homeland Security's lawyers argue DHS was not responding to protesters' messaging or viewpoint. They say agents were protecting the ICE building, and tear gas, as well as other munitions, are key tools to prevent violence and protect officers.
We have seen this in other cities and other places. What's the line between First Amendment legal protest and legal reaction by the federal government?
The hearing is expected to run through tomorrow. The judge is expected to issue a decision soon after testimony ends. And back at the Capitol, the Oregon House of Representatives has voted to pass the so-called Healthcare Without Fear Act. The bill passed in the Senate last week. It aims to limit how federal immigration officers operate inside hospitals. The bill would require officers follow the same standards as local law enforcement in hospitals and require the hospitals to create clear policies for interactions with law enforcement. It would also classify immigration status and place of birth as protected healthcare information. Oregon's legislative session is slated to end this Sunday. We will keep an eye on the bills still moving through the legislature. You can find the latest updates anytime, of course, on our website at kgw.com.